Welcome to Chicago State University Hotline on CAN TV. My name is Dr. Kelly Harris. I'm here with the great Dr. Garrard McClendon, Associate Professor at Chicago State University, media personality, host of Counterpoint on Lakeshore, public television. Also, the former host of the Garrard McClendon show, all these shows, the Emmy Award winning show off of 63rd Street.
Yes, sir.
Right? Also the author of Ask Not Ask. Right?
Yes, African American Guide to Better English.
African American Guide to Better English.
Yes, sir.
And also you have a book coming out?
Yeah, Donda's Rules, the scholarly documents of Dr. Donda West, the mother of Kanye West. She was an amazing scholar at Chicago State. God bless her soul, man. I wish she was still living. Yeah. But we're going to publish all of her scholarly works this year.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And you also have a film that we're going to talk about.
Forgiving Cain. Yes, the film Forgiving Cain, man. About 33,000 people die to homicide each year, Dr. Harris. And in the film, we interview 22 families who've lost a loved one to gun violence. Wow. It's very interesting because what we're looking for a thread in the film. We're trying to find out if yes, what are the symptoms, and then we're looking at how do we remedy the situation, how do we get rid of gun violence and murder, and then above and beyond that, Forgiving Cain, we're trying to figure out, can we end gun violence through forgiving murderers?
And this is a very personal story for you.
Yeah, very personal. 2009, I was working at WGN CLTV, and I get a phone call from my wife when I'm in the newsroom at WGN. And she's like, you need to come home right now. I'm like, what are you talking about? You need to come home right now. And I said, I'm a workaholic. I gave the phone to my producer. So she tells my producer what happened. And producer hangs the phone up, walks me out to the parking lot, and he says, Garrard, man, the elderly couple that was found in the forest preserve, those were your folks, man.
Oh, my God.
Those were your parents, man.
So you heard about the killing, but you didn't know that was your parents?
Right. There was a elderly couple, I guess, missing for a few hours or something.
Right.
And then there were reports that there were bodies found in the forest preserve in Calumet City. And that's how I found out, man. It was horrible. Horrible experience, man. But love conquers all, man.
Right.
And I can be bitter, I can be mad. I'm still a little upset. I'm still angry.
Sure.
But something told me on my drive home that day to forgive the perpetrators.
Wow.
We didn't even know who they were.
Right.
Forgive the perpetrators, man.
Wow.
And so that's the premise, I think, of all things. Many times what happens is there's a great book by Dr. Martha Nussbaum, a University of Chicago philosopher, and she talks about how she's got a book called Anger and Forgiveness, and how anger really has no purpose, because what happens when you get angry, it clouds your judgment.
That's true.
And it damages you, and it damages anyone around you.
That's very interesting because, at Chicago State, I know the new president, she's talking about wanting to build something at Chicago State where we're dealing with trauma issues. And it seems like really what you're dealing with in that film is really getting to that piece, another way of dealing with the trauma.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, dealing with the trauma. And that's the thing, how do you deal with the aftermath, of a situation? When things are going well, it's easy for people to be on the same team. It's easy for people to say, hey, I'm with you.
That's right.
But who's loyal when the
right.
chips are down?
Yeah.
Who's loyal when someone loses a loved one or someone betrays you?
That's right.
Where's the loyalty then? And so that's what we're looking at in the film, man.
When you decided on the ride home that you were going to forgive them, were you thinking about how your parents would deal with it? What would your parents want?
Wow.
How did you process that?
That's a great question, because my mother was always a very, very forgiving spirit.
Okay.
You know, if someone wronged her, you know, she wouldn't think about it long.
Right.
She'd be trying to make them a sandwich.
Wow.
That was the kind of person she was, you know. And I'm driving home. I'm on the Dan Ryan Expressway, man. We get to around 35th Street where Sox Park is. Sun comes out. Here's the crazy part, Kelly. At 5:30 in the afternoon, there was no traffic on the Dan Ryan going south. I kid you not. You can ask my producer, because my producer was right behind me.
Right.
5:30 rush hour. It was not a holiday. It was a regular day.
Wow.
There was no traffic. I said, we were on cell phones together. I said, Jerry, where's the traffic? He said, I don't know, man.
That's unbelievable.
On 35th Street, that's when, you can call it God, Providence, something said, you're going to see a crime scene at your parents' house. You're going to see yellow tape, red tape. It's going to be news crews there. You're going to see family and friends crying. What are you going to do? 35th Street, Sox Park, Dan Ryan, forgive the perpetrators. Let it go. Let it go. Because if you hold on to that, man, it's going to consume you.
And how did your family process it? When you told them that you were willing to forgive them, how did your family?
Oh man, they thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
They're like, "What are you talking about? You don't even know who killed them yet."
Right.
You know, you don't know what the circumstances were.
Right.
You know, but you know, we live in some dire times, man. We live in a messed up world right now.
Yes, indeed.
You know, a world that lacks love and guidance. You know,
and forgiveness.
And forgiveness, absolutely. I mean, it's people that haven't forgiven people about stuff from middle school.
Oh, yeah.
You know, remember that time when you wore the same shirt I wore?
In 1987. I'm still mad about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You gotta let it go.
Oh, no, man. I know.
It's just reality, though.
Yeah.
You know, that's reality. And to move forward, man, we gotta let some of that stuff go. It's like baggage.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Now, how do you incorporate this at all into your teaching? Tell us about your teaching, what you teach and what you focus on, and how long you've been at Chicago State
Yeah,
University?
been at Chicago State since 2011. I teach in GPED, graduate programs in education.
Okay.
We focus on principal. My area focuses on principal preparation and superintendent preparation.
Oh.
So we train principals, and I teach school finance, school law, collective negotiations, philosophy, intro to teaching, and a few other courses.
Okay. All right. And when you're talking to the principal, is there any preparation for the principals in terms of the type of student they're going to deal with and the issues they're going to deal with and they face? Do you all have?
So in school law and school finance, we do a lot of heavy concentration on, this sounds interesting, even though you're dealing with finance, which is money, and dealing with school law, which is legal aspects. Many times the morality question has to come up when you're a principal, because principals of schools have so much access to finances.
Right.
You know, a principal of school can have access to $200,000 to $500,000.
Right.
A principal of a school has the power to hire and fire people.
Right.
Well, hire people.
Right.
You know, and so a principal of a school has to be the leader of that building to convince other teachers to treat students and faculty in a manner that's kind and considerate.
They set the tone.
Yes, and we need that now. You know, it's beyond a background check.
Right.
You know, of course, Chicago is having some issues with that, but you know, it's about civility.
That's
you know,
right.
It's about being civil. It's about you know, being someone who is heavily focused on your content area. You know, but when you're a principal of a school building, that's a big responsibility.
Let me go back because I want to show people your film,
Forgiving Cain.
Forgiving Cain, the impossible possibility of ending murder. Now I do know as well, you have some renown as a public speaker. You've been doing that for quite some time. I know you go around Chicago and talk to young people in Chicago.
Yeah.
you talk to them about this story and how you process it? How do the students take it?
I have a speech called Iron Sharpens Iron.
Okay.
And what I'm doing in the speech, and I've done the speech in some of the Chicago public schools as well as the Midwest and as Atlanta, DC, and a few other places. What I'm focusing on in this speech, Iron Sharpens Iron, are things that have happened in my life that were horrible, and then how we overcame those horrible situations. I'm a cancer survivor.
Wow.
Yeah, I had seminoma cancer. I had a 3-centimeter tumor attached to my aorta.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was shaped like a butterfly.
Man.
This is back in 2003. So I noticed this heaviness in my chest. I'm like, what is this heaviness? Why? Every time I inhale, it wasn't a sharp pain. It was a dull pain.
Right.
So we finally got it checked out. Went to a chest specialist. Chest specialist said something's in your chest. They do the biopsy, find out that it's a seminoma tumor, and we get it taken out. Went through several cycles of chemo, and I'm cancer free now. But that was a situation where
You caught it early though, too.
yeah,
obviously.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We caught it early. That was a situation where one day my life flashed before me, and I thought, wow, okay, I may not be around to complete the things that I need to complete. I may not be around to share special events with my loved ones.
Right.
And so what it does is you get cancer, it gives you a wake-up call real quick. It makes you get your affairs in order. It makes you really look at what's important.
2 weeks ago, we had Aaron Mbande from the African American Male Resource Center on here, and we talked about Ronald Kwesi Harris.
Oh man!
And Ronald Kwesi Harris, who passed away from cancer, but when he had cancer, it almost strengthened his resolve a lot to get things done and to work with young people and to really make a difference. So it makes
Kwesi was encouraging people all through that
That's right.
ordeal.
That's right.
Everyone's sad for him. Oh man,
That's
what's
right.
gonna happen? He encouraging
people up there. That's
right. And it's people. I'm glad you brought him up. It's people like him that were inspiring as well. And that's why we talk about iron sharpens iron. None of us can accomplish anything alone.
That's right.
If you think you're good at something, you can get better. You got to sharpen the iron.
That's right.
Was it Abraham Lincoln? I forget who it was that they asked if you had 8 hours to cut down a tree. Well, I would spend 7 hours sharpening the axe, and I spend 1 hour chopping down the tree.
That's right.
Sometimes people are trying to do things, and the iron's not sharp.
Right.
The axe isn't sharp.
Right.
The knife, the blade
That's
is
where you
dull.
got to go through the process and getting prepared. That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
preparation.
So you're an associate professor at Chicago State in education. You are a filmmaker. You are a cancer survivor. But you've also published a book on Ask or Ask, the African American Guide to Better English. Tell us about that.
Oh man, so I'm an old high school teacher. I'm a professor
you
now.
taught high school as well?
Yeah, man, I taught high school, man, for several years, man. Taught high school in Indianapolis, at Bishop Chatard in Indianapolis. I taught at Bishop Noel Institute in Hammond, Indiana. But my longest high school stint was I taught at Culver Military Academy in Culver, Indiana.
Wow.
And that's where I learned my teaching chops.
Okay.
At Culver. And this is something I noticed year to year teaching high school. I noticed that the black students weren't getting decent grades in speech, in debate, in rhetoric. They weren't getting good grades in American literature, British literature, in composition. So I said, wait a minute, there's a noticeable chasm here. There's a hole here. And a lot of it has to do with how African American students are processing speech and processing the English language. Black English, African American vernacular English, Ebonics,
Right.
it's not negative
Right.
and it's not detrimental.
Right.
And we know that it's not deviant. We know that because just because you speak a certain dialect, it has nothing to do with your intelligence.
Right.
But in a formal schooling situation,
Right.
if you use certain words a certain way and your teachers can't comprehend, your grades are going to be a little
That's
bit lower.
right. That's right.
You know, and so that's why we wrote the book Ask the African American Guide to Better English, man. It's in 42 school systems now. Yeah, and it's really helped a lot of people, you know, kind of shape and to code switch.
Okay, that's
you
right.
know, the ability to adapt linguistically to a situation.
And I would assume that even that concept of code switching, that's something you're introducing to these young people for the first time. They probably never heard of that term before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, instead of saying, you know, the young lady wasn't behaving correctly from the beginning,
Right.
you know, homegirl was Ellen from Jump Street. So we know they mean the same thing,
Right.
basically. But there are some things that you can say in Ebonics that you can't say in standard English.
No question.
And that's on purpose. I mean, that's part of the African tradition.
That's right.
Everyone
That's right.
outside of the culture doesn't need to know what we're talking
That's right.
about.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now that's your first book,
Yes.
correct? But I'm very interested in the book you have now, coming out on Donda West.
Man.
Did you know her? Did you meet her? Because I know you're also on the foundation, correct?
I've met her before, yeah.
Yeah.
And we changed the name recently too.
Right,
Because of Kim Kardashian.
Right.
But the name of Donda's house, the organization now is called Art of Culture.
Okay, so let's back up for
Yes.
our viewers who may not know what happened. So you were on the foundation of
On the board, yeah.
on the board foundation on the board of the Donda
Donda's
House.
house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Foundation.
Yeah, we got calls
We
coming
have a
in.
caller. All right. Yes, caller. You're on the air. Thank you for joining.
Yes, and good evening, guys. How you doing?
All right.
You know, I've been listening to y'all guys speak and whatnot. It's very interesting on certain thoughts what other people always have. It's always good to listen to all sides, and then you can always address the big elephant in the room. That's the big problem. I heard you talking about your teaching in Indiana and the different schools that you taught there. Well, let's get to the big part of it. How about here in Chicago? Why do you think all our schools are closing? It's not about teachers. It's not about politicians. It's about kids are not going to school. They don't see any purpose of going to school. They think they could make it on their own. They could do certain little things, which, you know, that's to an older man such as me, we know that's impossible. I mean, that's truly impossible. As a adult, you teach kids, you go to school, get your degrees. The degrees are like keys. They open up different doors, and you try to get those masters, you try to get those degrees and whatnot. But these kids do not want to go to grammar school. Grammar school. If you think I'm kidding you, ride through the city during 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, why are these kids walking around? They're not doing anything. So
Caller,
the
let's give
question that I'm about to ask,
Dr. McClendon a chance to respond.
yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Let me get out the air so I can hear your response.
Appreciate
and
it.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
taking the call.
Thank you.
First, great call.
Yeah.
Great call. You
Yeah.
know, cogent, loving the content of the phone call.
And the passion.
It's not the children's fault though,
Right.
and it's not the children aren't to blame. That's on me.
Right.
We're to blame. The adults who haven't properly taught and guided the children. That's where the problem lies. Also, in the black community, there is a culture of low expectation.
Yeah.
You know, and so when my expectations are high in dancing, in dressing, make sure I'm matching my clothes, make sure that I'm playing the best sports possible, you know, that's fine.
Right.
But where are your expectations when it comes to the classroom,
Right.
the library,
Right.
reading ahead of schedule? You know, we can't just put it on the black community, though. It's on politicians as well. You know, because 50 schools were closed, and maybe a portion of those 50 had to be closed. But you have to consult with the communities
Sure.
before you shut schools down.
That's right.
You know, so it's a myriad of things. So it's not, there is no silver bullet. You know, it could be 12 things that are the causes and symptoms of something much greater.
And me coming from African American studies, African American studies always argue about the culturally relevant education. And a lot of people we still aren't having that. So kids are turned off when they step into a classroom. So my wife, who got her EDD from Chicago State, her dissertation was titled "They Don't Like Me," and it was talking about, and it was an analysis of Reverend Jeremiah Wright. But that whole concept, "They don't like me," came from her teaching in the public school system, and a young boy telling her, "They don't like me here."
They don't like me.
Yeah.
They don't like me here.
That's right.
We see this recently with a young lady who goes to school and she had her hair braided. It happened a day or so ago, and they kicked her out of the school.
That's right.
This was a so-called Christian school.
That's right.
And so we see these machinations of anti-blackness that occur in academic arenas.
Right.
And what's funny is the academic arena of anti-blackness has nothing to do with intelligence.
That's right.
It has all to do with skin color and hair texture.
That's right.
That's frightening, because now we're looking at genopsycholinguistic genocide.
So how do we disrupt that? How do we disrupt that?
You want the short answer or the long?
Well, we have 4 minutes, so let's do the short answer.
The short answer is black nationalism. That's the short answer. Not in a derogatory or deviant or antagonistic sense, but in the sense that many times African Americans feel more comfortable around African Americans. The minute you step outside of that community, now you're an outlier. You're an outcast, and that's frustrating, because now you're not being judged on what's in your heart and what's in your mind. You're being judged on skin color. And it's hard to teach white people about how to be sensitive to blacks.
About that experience, that's right.
It's nearly impossible unless they live within the experience.
Yeah, but I think in the school system, when we teach history and when we're teaching the ABCs and all these things from the beginning, we need to be teaching people about different cultures and different ethnicities.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's important for white people to learn about us.
Yeah.
It's important for us to learn about Latinos. It's important for us. We are all learning about white folks.
Yeah.
So it's very important to all learn all those things.
Kelly, in the time we have left, wouldn't it be interesting if there was an all-white school in the north suburbs or on the north side, and the first thing they learned on day one was Kiswahili?
Be something. Wouldn't it be something?
Oh, man. Gucci Chagali.
Why not?
Right? Absolutely.
They have a greater appreciation
Why
for
not?
it. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, sure.
Wow.
But let's get back. So the
Donda's rules.
The Donda's rules. That's right.
Yeah, once again, God bless her soul. Donda West was an amazing scholar. We're publishing her scholarly works, essays, doctoral and master's thesis. Donda West, Kanye's mother, was an expert on systems theory and linguistics. She was also an Ebonics expert. She was also an Alexander Pushkin Russian literature scholar.
Wow.
When she was in Iowa.
Yeah.
She got her master's thesis from Clark Atlanta.
Yeah.
She got her PhD, her EDD from Auburn.
Okay.
And when you read her systems theory, oh my goodness.
Well, let's take us home with the final comments, please. And thank you for joining us, first of all.
First of all, I love Chicago State. I love you, brother.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.